Hi there, friend. Erin Chase Show, and this is my new episode of the Erin Chase Show. Oh my goodness, I can't talk. Let me start over. Hello, friend. Welcome to the new episode of the Erin Chase Show, a show we do on Tuesday afternoons to share cooking hacks, tips, tricks, and sometimes other fun things with you. Today we are doing cookie dough monster cookies. I actually have a batch from earlier, and we're getting ready to bake another batch. I'm going to be like winning Mom of the Year when my boys get home from school today. So cookie dough hacks. If you're doing cookie exchanges, that could be a thing this year. I know everybody kind of skipped out on that kind of thing last year. Cookie exchanges, gifts. If you're doing baking for gifts, is a great way to share your love with people. During the Christmas season, we are doing uh, monster cookies. There we go, right there. We are going to make these, and along the way, I'm going to share with you a number of different hacks for cookie dough, including how to do kind of the make ahead option, how to do gifting, and things like that. So we are going to jump right into getting these made. My first hack for you is this. Whoop, there we go. The first hack is to set out your butter in advance. So starting with softened butter is really helpful. This has actually been sitting out since this morning, just on the counter. Um, and it just makes it a lot easier to get the um, dough started. And we want softened butter because it'll cream better with the sugars. And then, of course, we're adding in peanut butter as well. So here we go. We're just going to jump right in. You can see the recipe there. Screenshot this, type it into the Notes app on your phone, click on the recipe link that's on the video, and you can, of course, pin, print, save, however you do your recipes. These are amazing. These monster cookies are have a peanut butter base to them, so you could either switch to almond butter or even a sunflower butter if you need to. And oh my goodness, I'm doing this wrong. Help me now. You never know what's going to happen on live video. What I meant to do was add the sugars, and I just started adding the egg. But never fret, I just dumped the egg out. That was easy. Y'all are like, what is she doing? She doesn't know how to make cookie dough. Why should I listen to her? I promise it's because I'm like checking the screen and making sure everything looks right. See, and hitting the camera, that kind of thing. All right, so we need a half a cup of white sugar and brown sugar, and we need the peanut butter. Okay, we're going to cream all of that together. So the butter, the peanut butter, and the two sugars are being creamed together. So you can see if you make chocolate chip cookie dough often, you know that this is a little bit different. Usually the cookie dough base for that is 2 sticks of butter plus 3/4 cup of brown sugar, 3/4 cup of white sugar. So this is a little bit different. But I'm going to go ahead and measure the 3/4 cups of peanut butter. Well, Daisy barks. She can, I think, can smell this peanut butter and is like, "Excuse me, please. I'd like to have some." Okay, I use a spatula for um, scooping this out. I feel like it's easier to do that and then measuring it. So 3/4 cups plus 2 tablespoons is just shy of a cup. So if you wanted to do like just shy of a cup, or you could, of course, measure exactly. I think with baking, it is important to measure very tightly. Um, I'm going to do the just shy of a cup setup here. Okay, and then dollop all that in there and then just work to scrape all this out. Peanut butter is sticky, but it makes for a beautiful cookie. So just do your best to get all this out of here. And then we're going to cream this together. So 1 stick of butter, half a cup of butter, 3/4 cups plus 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, plus a half a cup of white sugar and a half a cup of brown sugar. And that softened butter this is going to cream really quickly. Okay, and then after that, I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla and the 2 eggs. And then my next tip for you, so we talked about having butter be completely softened. That's going to be tip number 1. Tip number 2 is going to be to mix your dry ingredients in a separate bowl before adding them in with the wet ingredients. Okay, so I already cracked one of these eggs. Whoops, do not mind me. I'm not even sure why I ended up using that bowl. I guess because I had messed that up. There we go. Always something going wrong on a live stream. All right, mixing that up. All right, now for the dry ingredients, we need to measure in the flour, baking soda, baking powder, salt, and quick cooking oats. So you can see all of those items there on the recipe card. Isn't it nice having that recipe card? Hit me up with some hearts if you think that this is pretty handy, having that recipe card like that. Our design team does an amazing job with things like that. So we're doing the flour first, and then I'm going to stop that mixer. All right, 1.5 cups of flour. Just going to stop that. 1/2 cup of quick cooking oats, which are those smaller oats. I like the quick cooking oats in cookie batters or cookie doughs, because the smaller pieces kind of absorb into the dough in a much more thorough way, I guess. Thorough is probably not the right word, but you get what I mean. All right, 1 teaspoon of salt. And then 1/2 teaspoon, my other measuring cup here, of baking powder and baking soda. Then what we're going to do is whisk together all of these dry ingredients, just with a whisk. You could probably use a fork too. But this is hack number 2, is to do this separately. So this gets evenly incorporated before you add to the wet ingredients. Okay. Now I'm going to do I'm going to go this way so I have room from this side. I'm moving my paddle so I can pour this in easier. Okay, so I'm going to do about half of this in here. We'll mix that up, and then we'll do the second half. All right, so let's mix this. I know that I'm trying to keep this so you guys can see it with the recipe card being right there. All right, now next up is going to be all of the yumminess of the mix-ins. So for these monster cookies, we are going to be doing chocolate chips, peanut butter chips, M&Ms, red and green M&Ms. You could, of course, use another color if you're doing these for another holiday. And then the pretzels, I'll explain what we're going to do with those in a little bit. I'm trying to shine the light so you can see a little better into the mixer. All right, so that looks pretty incorporated. I'm probably not going to scrape. I'll see if we need to scrape. Sometimes you have to you can see the flour like right here. Sometimes you want to, oh, no, wrong direction, Erin. There. So we might need to scrape that. Let's run this again, and then we'll scrape at the end. So pour the remainder of the dry ingredients in. Let those go. So hack number 1, start with really softened butter. Set it out in the morning if you need to. Hack number 2 is to mix the dry ingredients in a separate bowl before mixing them in. Hack number 3 is going to be actually to use an ice cream scooper. And then number 4 is going to be to use a silicone baking mat or sheet. um, on your, sorry, a silicone baking mat on your baking sheet. That helps to distribute the heat right here. It helps to distribute the heat. See, I thought it would pick up most of that flour. Distributing the heat as it cooks, okay? Now, these are monster cookies, so these are going to be large cookies, right? You'll see in a second how heaping these are going to be. The key word here is going to be heaping. I will only put 8 onto this dish. Okay, now to do the mix-ins, I do not want the paddle. I don't want to use the paddle. I feel like the paddle, it crushes the chocolate chips. The peanut butter chips are way soft. So I'm going to actually take my paddle off. And this dough is actually quite perfect. I'll tell you my dough trick here in a second. Let me put this over here. So what you want with your dough is when you pat it, you want no dough to come off on your finger, okay? So when you just pat it, you want your finger to be totally clean. You can see a little grease from the peanut butter, but that's another tip. If it's still pulling up like dough on your finger, like where the dough, let me see if I can, where the dough, see if I can fake it here. If the dough sticks to your finger like this, then it needs a little bit more flour, a tiny bit more. But really, if you just tap it, your finger comes off clean, then your dough is ready to go. All right, now mixing in, we need a cup of peanut butter and chocolate chips. It's actually going to be the rest of this bag, so I'm just going to do that. Then we are going to add in half a cup-ish of red and green M&Ms. Of course, you could do a little more if you wanted. And then we are going to fold that in with this spatula. All right, so let me move this there. You can see it a little better. Let's get this guy out of here. Okay, so I like folding these in because one, this dough is very soft because of the peanut butter, and two, because they just won't get crushed. The peanut butter and the milk chocolate chips, they're just softer. Okay, so we're just going to incorporate these. Now, the last thing on the list you see there is the pretzels. So I'm actually not going to add the pretzels at this point. All you need is some of those small pretzels, and you crush them kind of like this, just small little pieces. You could mix them in here, but they will get crushed even further. And you can see in the image there on the screen kind of how they're on top there. I actually prefer to press right after these guys come out of the oven. This is from this morning. I prefer to press the pretzel in here, and then they just kind of get incorporated into the cookie. The other reason I don't like to bake the pretzel pieces, is that any pieces that are sticking out like that will darken. They're not going to burn, but they're going to darken, and I don't particularly like that flavor with my sweet cookies. I do like the salty, crunchy factor of having the pretzels there, but I like to add them after they've baked, if that makes sense. All right, so this is ready for scooping. So now what we need to do is, if I were going to do regular cookies for like chocolate chip cookie, I would do one, you can see it's like all here. Like I would do a size like that, right? So this is if I were going to just do like a regular size cookie. But these are monster cookies. So we need to do giant pieces. And so I'm going to just do heaping. All right. I want some hearts. Give me some love for heaping cookies. All right. This is a heaping cookie. Okay. It's full, but it's like double the size. Does that make sense? We want heaping. I'm going to drop it on and then press it down just a smidge. Okay. We're going to do that again. I'm going to put 8 because these will spread a little bit. I don't want them to get too, I don't know, close together. I don't want to run into each other. So I'm going to do 8 per sheet. And if you get the right heap size, this will make 16 of these giant cookies. Okay, let me get that so you can see it all. All right. It's funny how these look even when I'm looking at them, but they look very not spaced apart properly in the video. I guess that's angles for you. All right, so I'm just gonna scoop and give a light press. Okay, now, what if you wanted to make this dough and gift it? Okay, so you can gift the cookies after they've been baked, which is a great present. You can also gift them like this. Okay, these have been in the freezer since this morning. So this is the batch I did earlier, and I just wrapped them in saran wrap. You could use parchment paper, wax paper, freezer paper. I like just having a double wrap on these. And then you just wrap them up in foil, put them in a bag, add a little card that says bake at 350 for 12 to 14 minutes, and you have yourself these monster cookies. So that's a great way to do a gift. There's another hack for you where you're actually giving the frozen cookie dough. Okay, so there's an option for you. The final hack that I wanted to share with you before we finish out here is if you want the most perfect cookie, okay? I've said this before. I will say it until I'm blue in the face. You should, I'm not doing it at the moment because we're on live stream. I highly recommend chilling this dough just like this. You can leave it in the container or in the bowl. Chill that for a couple of hours, ideally overnight. I realize that takes planning ahead. I realize that that takes some self-control to not reach into the fridge and scoop out a spoonful to enjoy. I realize that. However, there is a chemical process that happens when your cookie dough is chilling, and it's really important if you want the perfect cookie for you to do that. Then you get the perfect edge and the soft middle when you chill your cookie dough. So that's my final hack for you. Let me scoop this guy out, this last one. I'll do another tray after we're done here on the live stream. This is why I'm winning Mom of the Year today, you guys. Maybe it's just Mom of the Day. Anyways, all right, here's the recipe plus my hacks. You can see the recipe right there. This gorgeous dough. Look at how festive and colorful that is. So we mixed together a half cup of butter, 3/4 cups plus 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, creamed that with 1/2 cup white sugar, 1/2 cup of brown sugar. Once that was creamed, we added in a teaspoon of vanilla and 2 eggs, mixed that together. In hack number 1 there is to make sure that your butter is fully softened so that it incorporates nicely and evenly with the peanut butter. Number 2 hack is to mix the dry ingredients in a separate bowl, whisk all that together so it evenly incorporates before you mix it in with the wet ingredients. So we mix together 1.5 cups of flour, white flour, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 cup of quick cooking oats. So we whisked all that together, and then I poured half of it in, mixed it in with the wet ingredients, pour the remaining half, mix that in, and you just get this gorgeous, gorgeous dough. So the next hack is to know if your dough needs any more flour is you just give it a little tap and your finger should be clean. In this case, it's a little greasier than another dough because of the peanut butter has a little bit more fat than the butter. But you don't want this ending up on your finger. You want your finger to come off clean, okay? So that's the next hack. The final hack is to chill the dough before you bake it, or if you're going to gift it after you have kind of packaged it up and frozen it. So that's an option if you wanted to gift dough this year. I would love cookie dough. If anybody wants to send me cookie dough, I will gladly take it. Okay, anyways. All right, so before we scooped onto the tray, we did add the 1/2 cup of peanut butter and 1/2 cup of chocolate chips together with another 1/2 cup of red and green M&Ms. Of course, you could use, if you're doing patriotic cookies in the summer for July 4th or something like that, you could do red, white, and blue M&Ms. Valentine's has the red, pink, and white ones. Options for different holidays there as well. And then after I bake these, so fast forward, put these in the oven for 12 to 15 minutes at 350. After they're baked, while they're still soft, I'm going to press these crunchy, salty pretzel pieces into the top so that as the dough cools or as the cookie cools, they kind of end up holding on to the pretzel pieces there. So that's how you do these particular monster cookies. All of these cookie dough hacks will apply whatever the base that you're doing. So if you're doing, a double chocolate peppermint type of a cookie, or a peppermint mocha cookie, like any of these things we talked about, softening the butter, testing the dough, chilling the dough, mixing the dry ingredients separately, all of those things are going to help you end up with the most perfect holiday cookie. So that's what I got for you. The recipe is here on the video, and it's also, of course, here on the screen that you can see right there. So that's that. I'm going to get these in the oven so that when my boys literally walk in from school, they will be piping hot out of the oven and ready to be devoured. I predict the vultures will have no problem taking care of these cookies this afternoon. So that's it for this week's episode of the Erin Chase Show. We'll be back on Thursday with the Dinner Made Easy show. I'm making a chive-crusted beef roast, full on budget gourmet, great holiday meal option that's not going to break the bank. So I will see you Thursday morning for the Dinner Made Easy show. Have a great rest of your afternoon, my friend. We'll see you soon.